I'm Laura Kooris. I was the script supervisor on the film and an owner of the local production company that produced it.
I'm Richard Kooris. I was the director of photography and camera operator on the film, and co-owner of the production company Texas Pacific, that was the local production company on the film.
Mike Sullivan. I was the prop master on the film and general work around in the art department.
I'm Cary White, production designer and survivor of Chainsaw 2.
So did you guys know Toby at the time of Chainsaw 1?
No, I was at UT as a, equipment TA, and I checked out a camera to them under the table that they used, but because Nicolau and all those guys were
Danny Pearl and everybody else.
Pearl, they were all part of that.
Yeah. Well, he came back to us when Chainsaw 2 came up and said that he wanted to shoot it in Austin on purpose because he, had a great affection for the film community. And so that's why he brought the film back to Austin and talked to us. He had originally talked to me about DPing Chainsaw 1, but I wasn't available. So that's the reason. It's Toby was the reason it came back to Austin. So it's Jim Saito who's no longer with us, right?
The lead guy on the Chainsaw.
The guy that played Grandpa, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
I heard that he had passed away. Yeah.
And Kit Carson's no longer with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Kit had passed away too. I guess we don't want to consume the whole interview reminiscing about people who are no longer with
Well,
us.
of course, Dennis also.
Yeah. Right.
And Ken Everett's gone. The guy who played Grandpa.
Right.
Well, also, I'm not thinking of his name, but the fellow that played the DJ in the film.
Lou
Perryman.
Yeah. We were talking about Lou earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, an axe murder.
Yeah, he was murdered
Yeah, I know.
in a
Murdered by
very
a
bizarre
psychopath.
way.
Yeah.
Cary, you were talking about how ironic that is.
Yeah. It's
Oh, man.
horribly ironic.
Yeah, it's, life imitates art. I mean, for him to visualize being, murdered in such a way in a movie and then to have it happen in real life is so bizarre.
There ought to be another film made like The Big Short about Canon Films and all their financial chicanery.
Oh, were there any? I didn't notice any.
Yeah, I didn't notice any money either. So this does play into a few cliches about Texas, right?
Right. Yeah. Open carry. Well, these were all leading to the main big set.
Right.
All the signs. So.
Right. So this is down there, Bastrop, right? Isn't that where we're shooting this?
I think so, because we were using the bridge,
Yeah.
the old bridge.
But when the radio station was in the old Austin American Statesman.
Well, no, actually, Yeah, it was in
Yeah,
the...
it was.
in
The interior
The
was.
interior
Interior.
was. We built the exterior.
Yeah, the exterior was just facade
Right.
with a stairway.
We could never get out to Elgin, so we just built the exterior and called it New Elgin.
And look at that car phone.
Yes, right. Well, hey, they were lucky, because I don't think any of us had phones on this, did we?
No, we didn't.
There was one bag phone in the producer's car.
Yeah, that figures.
Real funny guys. Okay, you want to hang up now? Tying up the line. Hey, come on.
No way, baby.
We got a lot more fun.
Hey, check it out, dude. Let's play a little chicken with the farmer here. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Come on, man.
So do you remember who the stunt drivers were on this?
I don't. I'm sure I could look them up.
You know, those days we weren't worried about clearance with some of those albums in the.
Oh, God.
Yeah, right.
Not only that, but we wouldn't have been allowed to have Shiner beer. We would have had to make up something.
That's right.
We went from product placement to having to pay for everything that you use.
There's New Elgin.
Yeah.
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 Which was right across the street from the Statesman.
Downtown Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not there anymore.
No, the whole building's gone.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah, it was one of the locations that went after the film.
This is amazing because it took us forever to find all that old radio equipment.
Right.
'Cause none of it makes any sense if you know anything about radio.
Don't say that, Sully.
Oh
Most
yeah, it
people would
made
never
perfect
know.
sense.
Oh, Richard, we had a little fun with trying to shoot this bridge night scene, didn't we?
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God, yeah.
The bridge that goes on forever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the Muscovite didn't work, right?
Right.
The first time we tried
Musco light didn't work the first time, and we had real hell lighting it. Yeah.
And also, this location, I think after we finished our shoot, never was used for vehicles again. It became a pedestrian bridge.
And it still is, yeah.
I know. I mean, that's one of the things I think is historically interesting about this film. All these things that cease to exist as they were before.
It's kind of hard to light a bridge at night like that without a Muscovite, isn't it, Richard?
Oh. Yeah, ridiculous. The bridge that goes on forever, indeed.
Yes. Well, and it's probably only about maybe 100 yards long.
At the
Yeah.
most. At the most.
It just crosses the river there. Somebody who is part of a group, that follows Chainsaw Massacre 2,
Right.
wanted to know what each one of the chainsaws was.
And did you tell him?
What brand? No, I called Terry. I couldn't remember. He did all the chainsaws.
What you doing? God damn it! What you got there? What? Come on, what is that? I don't believe it! Come on! Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! Get out of here!
The original script for this film was much more, way more of a satire on materialism, consumerism, and yuppie culture, and middle class values in the United States. And it was, I won't say dumbed down, but it was certainly ratcheted back to keep Cannon happy. But the original film was much less horror movie and much more social commentary. And that, I think, Toby's certainly a powerful force in all of that, but a lot of that came from Kit. Kit was a wonderful, wonderful human being, a great, great sense of humor, and just a kind and sensitive and just a wonderful, wonderful person, an extraordinarily talented writer.
We really saw through that car door? Or was
Oh,
that
yeah.
propped?
Yeah, no, it was a fake car door.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I was.
Yeah.
That's what I was meaning.
Missed his assholes.
There's some Tom Savini work.
Yeah.
Right.
An extra head with a squeeze. Well, it's fairly obvious stuff, isn't it?
It is. I think that effect would have been done differently today.
Did you do that? What happened?
It's like super feedback. Just put the underwolf across the overflapper. I don't know. It's like dead air.
This, Sully.
Oh, God.
Oh,
This
man.
is-
I think those tire marks are still on that embankment there.
No, they aren't.
Yeah, because
There's
They're finally gone, I think,
we,
for years.
we
There
made
was
this
white
rig to
paint.
do it, and then Sully and I, in our usual harmonious way, were about to kill each other trying to put those marks up there.
right. We did it with a drag, with tire marks. We did it all kinds of ways, and it was up there. And they were still there up until about a year ago.
Now, this is the Colorado River Bridge down
Right.
on 71 and 183. Right?
Right.
I'm sure we told the city that we would get that stuff off there, and of course, you know, it's like I said, still there.
It was so amazing how many people going to work literally, rubbernecked, and we created a traffic jam. I mean, we had to get them to move on.
Lieutenant Enright, sir. We heard you might be headed this way. Did you come home for the big game?
You know why I'm here.
Yes, there's something about the chainsaw killers, your brother's kids killed. But that was 14 years ago, sir, way down in South Texas. Now, these are other kids. This is just an accident. Just a couple of wild punks out raising hell. Yep.
One of those boys so wild sawed his own head off going 90 miles per hour. Hell. Hell's exactly what they raised.
You know, I don't think this was Dennis's proudest moment as an actor.
He said it was most embarrassing with the chainsaws,
In the holsters.
the holsters, and yeah. He signed a picture of that to me, and it says, "Most embarrassing moment of my life, Dennis."
But, you know, Dennis was a great guy. He really was.
Oh yeah.
He was an amazing professional.
Yeah.
The guy was incredible. I mean, in terms of my job, when I needed to give him cues when we went in to do insert shots or, all the varied shots in a scene, he knew. The guy knew when to smoke, what word to pick up the cigarette and put it in his mouth, which one to exhale on. It was pretty, for a script supervisor, when you had to pay attention to that stuff way back then, he was just blew my mind. It was pretty impressive.
Was there even video assist there?
No.
I didn't think so.
Polaroids for the front and the end
Polaroid.
of a shot. For the front and the end of a shot, yeah.
You know, he was such a good friend to the art department. He would brag on us all the time, and then he came back to Austin and hired us to do Hotspot. So
yeah.
he was a great friend to us.
Brazos!
Brazos.
Remember the Alamo, cowboy?
And this was another set inside of the Austin American.
And
set.
there's Toby
There's Toby. Yeah.
in his Hitchcockian appearance.
And there's, what's his name, tall guy?
Lou.
No. Lou? He was a wrangler on a whole bunch of the westerns that we did.
Regulations. We got to record all the call-ins. End of the night, we wiped the tapes, but I kept this one it just got to me.
We got
I didn't know exactly
professionals
what I'd
working
heard, but I
on
read
this
your
now,
story,
so
and I
you
think
can
what you're
just
looking
not
for is
fool
on this
with
tape.
it. You can slow it down now.
You're just a joke in this morning's paper. Cowboy chases chainsaws 14 years. Dallas police refuse comment like you're, hung up on something crazy. But I believe you. I might be the only believer you got, because it's right here.
What is?
Right on here, those kids getting killed. Now, this is evidence, sort of, right?
Time for you to go home.
No, wait a minute. Look. I came here because I thought I could help you. I DJ this dumb show on KO Club in Burke Burnett, but people listen to me all across North Texas. Now I can put you on the radio, get people to believe you, get you some help.
You're gonna get in my way. Don't you get in my way.
No, I'm already right in the middle of this. This is my chance to stop playing headbanging.
I was so grateful for this hotel room because, everyone got sick on the show from working in the old building. And I had, doctor came out and diagnosed me with walking pneumonia, and I would come up here and stretch out on the bed in the hotel and try to keep going.
Wasn't there, like, during part of the construction, because it was basically abandoned, and we all had total access to it? Didn't, like, some of the air conditioning vents break open and have water and stuff released?
No, what happened? We were doing the radio station, and there was this big pipe there. There's your
French fry
log cabin.
Man, yeah.
What
This was the first day of the shoot, and it was almost my last day on the film. Because we didn't get the French fries the night before, and that morning we couldn't find anybody that had French fries. So we started with frozen French fries. I was probably shaking like somebody with Parkinson's disease by the time that we actually had enough French fries to build a darn cabin. And then we had piles and piles of French fries left over.
Talking about the Statesman building, somebody was actually diagnosed with Legionnaire's disease from that place.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
And we had to shut down because Toby got so sick. It was a bad location.
Well, we didn't actually shut down. We kept shooting.
I think one day we had to shut down because Toby couldn't work. But
Toby couldn't work for more than a day, but Kit directed.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Austin? He's Dallas's favorite caterer. I think he's kind of cute. The last Roundup Rolling Grill chef, Drayton Sawyer! This year, Drayton, you've got to tell the secret of that fabulously tasty chili.
No secret. It's the meat. Don't skimp on the meat. I got a real good eye for prime meat. Runs in the family. Whoop, whoop. One of those hard shell peppercorns.
That's Jim Cito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were half the actors in Austin.
Yes.
That's right.
People from Esther's.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a comedy duo that just pulled
Rachel.
out.
Rachel and
Rachel Winfrey.
Yeah, and who was the fella?
I don't know, but they're still doing that.
Out in Los Angeles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's Cut Right Chainsaw.
Yeah.
Now that's
It's a mean-eyed cat.
right in downtown Austin. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
And it's a mean-eyed cat now. Yeah.
It's amazing that it looks.
And there's a huge condo or apartment house behind it now.
And that man who owned that chainsaw building was so happy to see us, and he practically made Terry Evans his son by the time it was over. We had spent so much money there. Because he kept stuff sharpened for us anytime we needed extra chainsaws.
Well, that log that they used to test the chainsaws on is still there.
Oh, it is? Outside the building?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Shows you how Austin's changed. That little store would be in downtown Austin.
Yeah, really.
Had to relamp this entire place.
I remember. We also had to, did we build?
Oh, we built
A
that
wall?
whole chainsaw display.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Built the whole chainsaw display, and these are all relamped with color temperature fluorescence. And
They weren't displaying chainsaws to their best advantage for us.
they needed you, Mike.
Well, it was just a little country place, you know.
Okay, give me all the chainsaws this will buy.
What can I do you for?
It was one of the fake ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one. They're
Lightweight
all of,
enough.
Yeah,
All
all
empty.
of these were Sirkin made molds for all of these chainsaws.
I don't know why Dennis would have been embarrassed by this.
Well, you see, it gets more embarrassing as you go along. You know.
The first Texas Chainsaw Massacre was actually the finish to the edit was done in our editing room of this little bitty film production company here in Austin after it had been sold to Bryanston, and they had to finish the film in order to deliver it on time. And so there's some pretty great stories about that whole time as well. But Toby really sustained a breakthrough with that film, and it was just such an extraordinarily low budget film that was just sort of powered by his genius and his talent, and taking a completely different direction on how horror films had been made, that it just broke completely new ground. This film was sort of an evolution. This was made a number of years later, and after Toby had been working through his 3-picture deal with Canon. So this film came about in a completely different way, with a very talented screenwriter in Kit Carson, and a collaboration between he and Toby. So it's cut from a completely different cloth. I think the first film, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, was made for $235,000, and this film had a production budget of about $5 million. So there's a vast difference between the approaches to the two films.
They're apples and oranges with Chainsaw 1 and Chainsaw 2. It seems like that film was a classic horror film, and there wasn't the sort of black humor in that there is in this one. This is more of a parody horror film, seems to me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's more depth to it as you look at it. I mean, if you regard it, if you look at it for film history, in terms of the way it was written and what is really going on in it, it's totally different. And then the first film I had not seen before we shot this film. I didn't approach it in any way, in any regard, other than we were making a sequel, and it was an entirely different kind of film.
Yeah, I actually didn't have much of any connection with the first one, but I knew almost all the actors. Because they had either worked with me through the Actors Clearinghouse, but I kept hearing things after we shot this film, that this was the artsy artsy
Yeah, the artsy
Chainsaw
version.
Massacre movie, and I was thinking like, well, I don't know. See, since I was working in the art department, I don't know if that's a compliment or a complaint. And I always took it as a compliment.
You know, Robert Burns, who I worked with, was the art director, production designer on the first one, and he made bone chairs and that sort of thing. But it was such a low budget production that we kind of raised the bar on bone chairs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that first film, I mean, this film was a death march in its own way, just because the hours were so long and it was just so hard. But the first film was a death march too.
Yeah.
I mean, they had, you know, if we think we didn't have any resources on this film, they had nothing on that film. I mean, it was chewing gum and baling wire to the nth degree, and they pulled it off. They were also, they shot that film in 16 on a film called Eastman Color Commercial, ECO, which was a 25 ASA film, which is just crazy when you think about how much night and dark stuff is in that film. It was, but you're right, it was a straight ahead horror film, and Toby was just trying to, you know, do something that was completely original. He absolutely pulled it off. The film was a phenomenon.
Those big spoons. I guess we needed something, right?
See, I think this may be a poor man process shot.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is.
Well, the first one wasn't. The first one we were actually moving, but I think this is poor man's process. I think we were just parked and moving the vehicle around.
We did some of those inside the van too.
Yep.
With just Leatherface in his saw.
Yep.
Yeah, Bill was such a great choice for Leatherface because they were looking for somebody who had really good eyes. And he was, that's one thing he could definitely do.
My memory of her, first of all, she's a very, very beautiful woman, and I thought she did an amazing job. She's a very talented actress, and I thought she did an amazing job in this film. And it's tough to be the victim in a horror film, especially when you survive the movie, which means you're the victim for 90 minutes. I mean, she took so much abuse, physical abuse, and just emotional abuse in making this film. I mean, it's relentless. I mean, remember, this is 2.5 months of production. She was a trooper.
I think that she didn't get a whole lot of empathy for what she had to go through, and she was a real trooper. She just did it because it was her job. But I think that there would be times, as I'm sure you're aware of, or any of us are, on a set where you're this machine. It's like everybody has a group think, everybody has we're going to charge now, we're going to stop, we're going to keep going forward, you know, doesn't matter if the place is on fire, that's what you do. And there were times when she was just totally exhausted and needed a break, or needed to go sit in the makeup room or hang with the very few women that were on the set anyway, and just kind of, break away. And that really wasn't there. She was a tool for Toby to make his film. It's almost remindful a little bit of the old Hitchcock thing, about actors are nothing but furniture. He wasn't rude and terribly mean to her. I just think that he was a little, he was not necessarily empathetic sometimes when she was just kind of at her wit's end, and she has screamed and emoted as much as you could scream and emote, That's what I kind of remember.
But I love what she did in that scene where she and Bill Johnson or Bill is, let's say...
The sex scene.
What?
The sex scene.
The sex scene,
yeah.
in the storeroom. I thought she did a great job in that.
Hello? Hello? Hello, Lefty?
I lit a cigarette last loneliness. I left her body a mess. You can get away with murder out here. Did you ever learn how to dance?
LG?
Right there in that corner was a big pipe that we pulled out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually, everything is supposed to be dead in the building, but that was a live water main that for the sprinkler system. And as soon as we undid that pipe, it flooded that whole place.
That's right.
I drove up and it looked like Niagara Falls coming off the second floor of that.
Well, remember, they also had all the water and wastewater cut off for the building, but the toilets were still there. And when people got lazy and they didn't want to go outside to the porta-johns, they just used the toilets in the building.
Not sure if the women did.
Well, we hadn't dressed this set, though, when that happened, had we?
No, we were, you know, there was construction was in there.
Right. Putting up walls. And
it was Joe Self's first day on the job, and he said, what can I do? I said, go pull that pipe out.
But I gotta tell you, I think the set just looks so great. It's really fun.
It's a wonderful
It's fun
set.
to see it, you know. So you guys did an amazing job.
And the way that we lit it, Toby and Kit both said that it was very reminiscent of the Hammer films from England.
Ooh, that's a nice compliment.
It is a nice compliment.
Boy, that metal door we did was a good looking door.
Yeah.
That fire door there, I love that.
You know, Michael Peel was the set decorator on this.
Yeah.
And he got some great stuff. And then, you know, this was an all hands on board kind of art department. So when, you know, Mike and his crew were gathering stuff, and Terry was gathering stuff, and Jay Raymond was gathering things, and we all got together and started dressing together, you know.
Close that. I know what you're thinking. This is a weird help, but I can handle it. You know? You're my fave. Me and Bubba, my little brother, we listen to you every night. Music is my life.
Toby loved how he would just kind of rant, how he could just go off and just do these amazing riffs, you know, with his character and with his. It was pretty amazing to do. I remember having, it was kind of a nightmare for me as the script supervisor because he didn't necessarily, well, he rarely did the exact same thing in each take. But besides that, you know, the recording, my making notes on what he did with his hands and where and action like that. So when they had to go in for the 2 shots or close-ups or whatever, cutaways, there could be something that the editors could match was difficult. But it was always, it was amazing to watch him, and he made Toby so very happy. Toby and Kit, they just got, I mean, sometimes I think Toby just wanted to find a way to have him have another little moment because his riffs were so so contagious, so funny.
My memory of him is just that he was a complete professional, and he could just get into character just effortlessly, and he was always at the top of his game. I mean, he was really just a pleasure to work with, and he had also a very demanding role in the film. But he was a great person, and I mean, his character obviously is miles and miles away from the real human being. He's a really decent and honorable person to be around, but I really admired his professionalism in the performance he gave.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Was this scripted or was this made up?
No, he just went for
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
I mean,
That's what
there
I
was
thought.
some basic.
Yeah.
Sully, tell your story about Kit and writing the scene when you.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember which day it was. It was one of the last days we were shooting. And I walked past Kit, and he was sitting on a stool, and he had a typewriter in front of him on his knees. And I asked him what he was doing. He said, "Oh, I'm working on the script." I said, "Oh, you're writing new scenes?" He said, "No, I'm transcribing what we did yesterday." I said, "None of it was in the script. Now it will be."
I pulled out the binders because I've got the original pages of all the logs and everything. It's like a rainbow. It's just amazing the numbers of rewritten scenes and pages. And there's 2 of them. I mean, they're the biggest. There must be 500 pages.
Oh my God.
Sully, the version of that story that I heard, the last line was, "Kit, you can stop writing that. We just shot that scene."
Yeah. Well, it was about 3. We had 3 crews going, shooting 3 things in 3 different places.
Yeah.
We were in the big room. Mm-hmm. We were in the back of the van, and we were also in the stairway where they were shooting the yuppies.
You're talking about the 27-hour last.
Yeah, the last day.
Well, we had done 3 sets like that before that, and I ran between them. I was doing the logs on all of them.
Yeah, because
crazy.
The one inside the van was another poor man's process.
Yeah, that last, I walked out of there after spending 27 hours straight and just blinked in the sunlight and thought, oh, I think I'm going to go home and go to bed.
And it was the 4th of July.
4th of July.
4th of July, and they were pulling the plug at noon. Yeah.
And
literally.
They actually came up with a new set at about 2:30 in the morning with one of those crews saying, "Hey, we need to do something over here," and it's like, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, sure.
Well, then there was a fire in the big room.
That was on a different day, though.
Yeah, a different day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because we sort of lucked out. The guy who was the head of the firemen came by, and he happened to be also named Mike Sullivan, and he lived across the street from me. So he wasn't going to turn us in. Every once in a while, you luck out.
Oh, I remember people were staying in there, one either trying to put out that fire, or grabbing equipment. And I remember the film crew coming out, and I grabbed Richard and I told him to stop. I said, "It's a fire. Don't worry about the camera."
Rain, 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 rain. Music is my life.
Toby is a really brilliant, complete filmmaker. He came up in a way where he knows all of the crafts. He's a great shooter. He's a talented photographer. He understands editorial, understands sound. He's really a polymath when it comes to all the cinema arts. But I think what my impression of watching Toby direct was that he was kind of making concrete the things that he saw in his head from when he was a little boy. I think he was really kind of reliving a lot of his fantasies and his fears and his imaginings through an opportunity to direct. I mean, he was very, very instinctive and very, very certain. He very much knew exactly what he wanted to happen in front of the camera, and that makes things easy for the actors because they get a very clear message from the director.
But as working with the actors, I think he worked better with some actors than others. I mean, he did lose his patience a lot with Caroline, But with some of the other guys, he would just let them go. He gave them more freedom, and I can't remember how much acting experience Caroline had. Maybe that was part of the reason. The rest of them were pretty seasoned, even coming from the middle of Texas, and they had a better opportunity to give him or kind of go wild, which is what he liked. He loved all that extemporaneous kind of nutty stuff and crazy stuff. That thrilled him. He would have such joy out of it. And it's my memory that he's had a lot of respect for all of us on the crew for the exact reasons Richard was saying, is because he understood our jobs and the details and the demands of them. What did you remember?
Well, for me, I've always worked pretty much art department, and usually that means you're ahead of the shoot. So, I've always said, if the art director is on the set while you're shooting, either one or two things is wrong. You've forgotten something, or you're talking about tomorrow. But usually I'm not there. But as prop master, I was around all the time. Either Terry or myself on the set. And it was really amazing to watch Toby put together things, especially stuff like cutaways, where everybody thought we were finished shooting, but he was calling for people to come back, get in position so that he'd have something to cut away so he could edit the scene later on. But, that was the first time that I really saw somebody crafting the film as he was shooting it.
Yeah. He came up as an editor. He's a brilliant editor. All the commercial stuff and the short films that he did, I think, owe as much to his editorial abilities as anything else.
Was Eggshells one of his?
Yes.
Yeah. That was the first thing of his I ever saw.
I think it was his first kind of big.
I think they
bigger
did
film.
it in a house just across from Dirty's Hamburgers, didn't they?
Probably.
One of those frat houses.
Yeah. Now,
Subtle
are there any sexual overtones to this scene?
The subtle symbolism here is,
you think?
Yeah, it's so deftly done.
You're not really mad at me. How good are you?
Well, we had a fair amount of prep time on it. I don't think that was too rushed. And the shooting schedule was 9.5 weeks, so that was fairly lavish for a film of that budget. Although they made the most of it by working extremely long hours every week. The really compressed part of the schedule was the editorial. They had an editing room set up at one of the sets of the American Statesman building, and Toby would leave the set after we would wrap a particular setup and we would be prepping for the next setup. He would leave the setup, go to the editing room and edit until we were ready for him to come back for run-throughs and the next scene, because they were under such a schedule. I think they had 4 weeks from the time we wrapped principal photography to have a release print in Japan, which is crazy. Just a stupid commitment, but that was Canon had made a sale and they wanted to cash the check, so that was the hand that Toby was dealt, and he was not happy about it because, as I said, he was primarily, his great love was to craft a film and edit in the editing room, and you can't do that and do the sound mix and everything else in 4 weeks. It's just impossible.
Did he re-edit after?
I don't think they gave him a chance to re-edit, and there are some incredible scenes that are left out of this film.
Yeah, I was wondering about there was a scene in the stairway where yuppies were being killed.
Yeah.
Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah, the movie critic. Right?
Yeah, the movie critic out of Dallas.
Right.
Was one of the victims.
Yeah.
And that didn't even make it in the film.
Didn't make it in the film?
Yeah, that was the set we did on the 7-hour night.
Yes,
That, right. That they said we need a set for Joe Bob Briggs, and I was like, come on. Yeah.
Well, that scene in the hotel room with Carolyn and Dennis Hopper, there's a whole dream sequence that we shot in there of the camera circling around Dennis Hopper as he relives what happened to his family 14 years before. It's just an amazing scene, and it did never make it into the final film.
Had they planned on using the original material, do you think, or
from the first Chainsaw? No, they never planned to do that. But this was him sort of reminiscing about it. It's probably some of the best acting that he did.
I do remember that now.
And it wound up on the cutting room floor. But part of that was because they didn't have enough time, and part of it was because Cannon kept saying, we don't want that. That's not horror. We want more blood, more.
Well, they were, those guys.
The two producers.
Globus and Globus, yeah.
We don't Globus and go around. We don't want to get sued, though,
I don't think they're around anymore. I think we could get plenty of people to agree with the statement.
Probably could.
But a lot of the stuff that came into town, even after this, was really low budget.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for all practical purposes, later on when we got to do Lonesome Dove, I mean that was a low budget project. Nobody thinks of it that way.
Well, most of the work that came into Austin after this was Movie of the Week stuff.
Right.
There was a whole big chunk of time when there was a lot of $2.4 million Movie of the Weeks coming through.
Right. And DOA was after this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What else?
And the Coens?
Nadine.
And the Coen Brothers film. First Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Oh gosh, what was it called? It was
some of it had
Blood
blood.
Simple?
Blood Simple.
Blood Simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder why Toby couldn't get a rating on this film.
Oh, he didn't have any rating at all?
No, that's right.
No, that never. They
It was
wouldn't.
unrated.
Well, it was back then. I guess it was because of cannibalism. They thought cannibalism was so taboo. Mm-hmm. I think that's why. As I recall, that was the whole reason behind it.
Remember, they had a release date, and they had, 4 weeks to edit the thing?
Well, it was the first release was in Japan, and they had 4 weeks to complete it before it had to be
my
released in
goodness.
Japan. And they got supposedly they got enough of an advance from Japan to pay the entire budget.
Yeah, they got more than the budget. They got $21 million from Japan.
Well, it wasn't a very big budget to start
I
with.
know.
So.
Cannon was already in the black before we just shot everything. Didn't keep them from squeezing us on the money end though. Anyway.
I couldn't afford to buy water for the crew.
Yeah, well, part of that was that.
It was Hank.
That UPN they sent in.
Hank.
Oh God! Remember putting those letters up on top of that, and we got those giant statues from Eichenbaum.
Yeah,
display.
Eichenbaum display, right? Harold Eichenbaum.
But the night that we were putting those letters up on top of the Matterhorn, it was like gale force winds, and everybody was standing up on top, the crew was up on top, holding the letters in place until it blew over. You were up on top of yourself, weren't you, Cary?
Oh, heck, yeah.
This is such a bizarre place.
Do you remember,
was
Richard, when we were in the office talking about this thing in pre-production? I said, man, we got to go out to the Matterhorn to shoot that thing. And everybody said, no, man, that's too far. We can never do that. Well, we ended up doing it.
Was it 48 miles or something like that? That we were having to drive twice a day.
Killer.
And everybody was exhausted.
After 14-hour days.
Yeah. No, it's one of those deals that, was not a safe thing to be doing. But look how great it looked. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. And it's not there anymore.
Not a thing. Not
Nope.
a thing.
No, the big tornado wiped it all out.
That was a cursed location.
Well, there was a little pond there. I walked out on that pier one time, and there was a stringer tied to the pier. I pulled it up. Some teamster had a whole stringer full of fish he caught in that pond.
Well, they didn't have any.
No, I thought, man, the teamsters, they got it pretty good.
And building this hole. And
Yeah.
Then the tunnel was on the soundstage, wasn't it? Someplace.
Oh.
Well, the back end part of it was in the big printing room of the Statesman.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
It's back-
In
the
a
back-
corner or something.
Well, yeah, some section.
Right.
Oh no, she's about to go to the sliding.
Yeah, this is the big slide.
Slide that ended up in my backyard after the. I had the two little boys, and they liked that circular slide.
Erosion control netting.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff.
And it burns well too.
Yes, it does. And that was the birdie in the big room, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the first day we got in there and the electric crew was going up into the rafters to rig all the wiring?
Oh, yeah.
And they came down and they were black from head to foot because of 50 years of printer's ink that had been up on the beams.
I think
that
they
just covered everybody.
They did it deliberately, I'm sure, because it was hot up there and they just had shorts on. But they came down and their whole bodies looked like Nubians. You
Yeah,
know,
they were shiny and black.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We had a multiracial crew that for the first 4 or 5 days of pre-production.
The arsenal. And I love the holsters, Mike. The holsters.
Oh, the holsters and the bandoleros.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't like them. Those were very strange characters.
Never gotten much from that display place, but those were great.
Yeah.
Help me beat this stranger that walks beside me and takes away my strength. Lord, you show me the end. Show me what I fear, so I don't fear it no more. Ah! 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 Ah!
The Bowie knife.
Guys, this is just a great set.
Yeah, it
Well,
is.
I remember we borrowed the cobweb machine from the drama department at the university.
Right.
And then we also used for the bone room, which is coming up, we used their vacuform machine to make the bone panels.
Well, we had to do this thing over and over and over to get it right.
Yeah.
What was the problem? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I'm sure it's noted somehow. Maybe it didn't come out in a stream. Maybe it came out too fast.
But we had to make lots of buckets of guts over and over again.
You're talking about when he opens the wall up.
Yeah, right there.
That.
It lived in the back of my Ford Fiesta for weeks. You practically couldn't drive around in that car.
It's the devil's playground.
I'm bringing it down! Down, down! Bring it all down! Bring it all
You know, Richard, you wanted to use all those Christmas tree string lights.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after the show was over, I was throwing a huge armful of those in a dumpster. And then, like a month or two later, you know, I was standing at the Christmas store buying Christmas tree string lights and thought, you know.
We could have set up a store.
Yeah.
Well, I remember we just went out and collected lamps from antique stores, junk shops,
yeah.
all over Central Texas.
No, we just got whatever lighting instrument we could find.
Well, and we also couldn't afford the money to pay for things like furniture, for the big room and these diorama things in the tunnels. And those $5, we had a bunch of artists from the university, art department, and friends of theirs who worked for $5 an hour, building things like the meat that you see hanging,
right,
and a lot of stuff. We went to Goodwill, and we picked up all the broken furniture out of the dumpsters, and they said, "Why do you want this?" And then we took whatever was missing. So if it was an arm missing, we took an arm, bones, and made the arms. And so we took broken furniture like Chop Top would have done and made usable furniture out of it.
Yep.
And what was it we got in from L.A.? We got a dead German Shepherd. A
Right.
stuffed German Shepherd.
Stuffed German Shepherd.
Who was dead on a treadmill.
Oh, in those days, we actually, from Carolina Biological Supply, ordered these skeletons.
We
and
did.
They were real skeletons. I mean, they were actual skeletons.
Right, when we got the cheapest skeletons we could from Carolina Biological Supply, and they looked so real when they came in that I called them up and I said, "Are you sure you sent us the right ones?" They said, "Yeah, these are the ones." I said, "Well, they look real." They are real.
There was a
I said,
little sticker, a little tag on them that said, "This product made in India."
Made in India, right. There were some sect in India was selling the skeletons after they had been picked clean by the carrion birds in these parabola mirrors that they put up on the roofs. And they were selling them to medical supply places.
Rather than putting them and burning them, don't they normally burn the bodies?
Some sects do, and
Oh, I
I
see.
think that.
But
so
you can't buy those real skeletons anymore. Now they're all plastic because they were actually, people were harvesting other people for their skeletons.
Yeah.
Look how deep this set is. It's just amazing.
So we hung those guys up. We hung all the skeletons up and gave them names and cast them.
Do you remember how hot it was shooting in this space?
Yes.
Oh, God.
No air conditioning. May, it was probably in the 90s, high 90s or 100 outside.
May, June, July.
Yeah. May and June.
No good. No good. No good.
I've known Bill since he was 16 years old. When I moved to Texas in '71, I went to see a production at University of Midsummer Night's Dream, and Bill was playing Wall, the character of Wall, and he had a brick that he was holding up, and he dropped the brick. It bounced and fell off stage, off the curtain, off the apron of the stage, and Bill, in total character, went to the edge of the stage, looked down, jumped off the stage, picked up the brick, climbed back up on stage, got back into character, and continued the line. Which is the kind of self-confidence, that he had, even as a 16-year-old apprentice. He had that presence and ability to deal with whatever came down the pike.
Yeah.
So I always thought this was going to be a perfect thing for him to do.
Yeah. And you can, he is very expressive in spite of all the stuff that's layered on his face. I think he does a brilliant job. But, when you mentioned that, I remember Bob Elmore and working with him on the film, and I think that Bob Elmore actually was inspired by Bill Johnson and was learned from him. I think through the film, Elmore became a more of an actor. I think he was put in that position to do all the physical stuff more as a stunt person, and I think by the end of the film he had understood more about what it was to take on the character in the way that he moved and the way that he behaved.
Right, and the two of them would you would see them off to the side, and they would be working together, and because Bill was also a martial arts type person, soft form, Tai Chi in particular, and so he had that kind of fluidity of movement for a big man to start with, and I think the two of them worked together to mold a character that was not here's the actor, here's the stuntman,
right.
That they really kind of melded.
Yeah, it was pretty seamless.
Yeah.
You know, in so many ways, this is really just a black comedy. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I think Kit, that was his intention. And Toby, really. I mean, Toby would just cackle and glee over some of these scenes.
Yeah, no, and it's...
Well, you know, the original script that they didn't really get to realize was a very biting satire on consumerism and materialism and yuppie culture and all. I mean, that was Cannon made him cut a lot of that social commentary out and make it much more just a straight-ahead horror film.
You know, in the original script, they certainly didn't have in this Texas Battleland stuff. It was all he just goes to a place in a truck and falls in a hole, and then there's one tunnel after you fall into another tunnel and another tunnel.
Right.
And this was all invented on the here instead of on the page, you know.
Right. That background of the skulls is
that's Daniel Miller's.
Well, and we used the university, their vacuform machine.
Well, a lot of those were fiberglass because there were some heavy ass panels that we made there with the skulls.
Yeah, you kept one of those, didn't you?
Yeah, I wish I still had it. It played a part in Halloween, you know, festivities for years.
I'll never forget when we broke on this scene and went to lunch, he was standing in the lunch line in this makeup, and Eli, our son, was there. He was 4 years old.
You know, my kids were there too, and they picked a great day.
We should ask him if he remembers this. I don't know that he remembers that.
I don't know. We had so much fun lighting this thing with all those super bright HMIs driving through those holes in the planks.
You know, my son mentioned to my wife that there's some strange people here, but he was just talking about the grip, you know.
This is Psycho. This is also like the shower scene in Psycho.
I guess I'm falling apart on you, honey.
What did he say?
Guess I'm falling apart on you, honey.
No. Shit.
Who was the guy they sent in to direct the second unit at the end there? Do you remember?
Newt?
Newt.
Yeah.
One-eyed Newt.
That's right. You know,
He was actually a pretty good guy.
he was, and
He was a nice guy.
and when he, you know, looked at that Matterhorn thing, he said, "This is $1 million set here. This is, you know, huge."
I think he was blown away by all of us there, what we were doing and what we'd accomplished, you know. And he was shocked by Hank. Not Hank was so sadistic. I mean, it was almost, dealing with Hank was almost like being in the movie.
But this is just an amazing set for what little money we had to spend on it. I mean, it's just baling wire and chewing gum.
Just starting with that huge room, I mean,
I know.
taking a look at that room empty and trying to figure out how we were going to fill it.
What was it, like 175 feet long and 80 feet high or something like that? It
was huge.
100 feet wide.
Yeah.
It was
And we got
gigantic.
we got all these sonotubes and plastered them all to look like pipes, rusty pipes. And Greg Fawcett was the scenic on that. After that show, he changed his career and became a Teamster. He wanted no more of that.
Well, there's one right there.
Yep.
Well, the nice thing about sonotubes is that you easily cut.
Yep.
Oh, they're everywhere here.
Yeah. And building all of these walkways and bridges to go from one area to another.
And then making it all look like it was underground and making it all in dirt.
Having all those different levels was really great too, wasn't it?
Oh,
Yes. I mean, that's
incredible.
actually what made it, I mean, it built in depth.
Yeah, it's a marvelous set.
That amusement park everybody knew about it because it sat right off the highway on the way to Dallas, and every time you drive by there, you'd think, golly, that's a great movie set. I wonder why did somebody want to shoot that? And of course the reason is because it was in the middle of nowhere. It was 49 miles from Austin, so no one was too enthusiastic about making that drive to that location, but it was an amazing location.
I'll tell you a story about that exemplifies kind of what went on in the culture of this show. When they picked that location and we started shooting up there, I think we had probably a week and a half, 2 weeks of shooting at least up there, and we were shooting a lot of nights, and it was a long drive. It was at least an hour drive each way, and we were working 14 or 15-hour days. So the crews were exhausted, and my crew, my camera crew, I was worried about them dying on the road, falling asleep on the way back from set. So we went to the production and we asked them if they would hire us a driver and a van to transport us, and they refused. So we had to pay for our own van and driver. Laura and I paid for our own van and driver to drive us back and forth to set because we were terrified that someone was going to just fall asleep and
The
drive
film,
off
you're
the
talking
road.
about the whole film, the film crew,
Yeah.
not just you and me.
Right. Everybody on the camera crew, right?
Well, I was driving up there one day and I was falling asleep, so I pulled over on the shoulder of the highway and was taking a nap, and my carpenters saw my car over there parked, pulled up behind me, and came up and tapped on the window and scared the hell out of me.
Well, we were making trips back and forth to the Matterhorn, I mean, sometimes 2 and 3 a day, just to bring stuff that we were dressing out the sets with. And we had a 5-ton van and my Ford Fiesta. which, if you know the Ford Fiesta, is an incredibly tiny car. And in the back of the Ford Fiesta were all the buckets that had the blood and the guts in it. And there was one morning we were supposed to shoot that, and I went home and went to sleep, and when I woke up, it was 6 o'clock, and we had a 6 o'clock call. So it was 49 miles of panic to get up there, figuring, well, okay, I almost lost the job on the first day of the shoot. Now I'm going to probably lose my job because I don't get the blood that's necessary for the first shot of the day. And then I got up there, and you know, somebody was looking over me that day, because the special effects crew wasn't ready, and it saved me from being the one who didn't have his stuff ready.
I think nobody would have kicked you to the curb.
Yeah.
I don't think that was going to happen.
Oh, I don't know. Toby was pretty angry on day one.
Yeah, well.
No French fries.
No French fries.
Boy, I tell you, after a while, though, you've never seen so many French fries pour into a place in your life.
And one of the reasons we thought, that the night before beginning of the shoot, we thought, well, the only thing we got left to do is this French fried log cabin. Oh, hell, we'll do it in the morning. We'll get it done in the morning, which, how hard can it be? The next morning, we didn't have French fries. We couldn't find anybody that had French fries. And we ended up with probably more French fries than a fast food joint would sell in a week. But Toby kept coming over and chomping on the cigar and looking at me and asking me when it was going to be ready, And in the meantime, my hands couldn't put the log cabin together because they were shaking so much.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
The great tunnel. Look at that.
Well, yeah. Throw an angel in.
Throw in whatever you got.
Man, we just were coming up there with carloads of stuff.
It was such a great solution. I mean, to be able to put all those varied things in there and then use them to light the scene.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was the best. And this Steadicam on a four-wheeler, on a four-wheel ATV, I mean, people have done this forever since then, but I think we were the first people to do this.
Well, it also was wonderful having that location because it had those concrete floors.
Right.
Because it had been a skate venue, roller skating venue.
Yeah, it was an ideal surface to track on. But to be able to do tracking shots at this speed with that technology.
It's very Christmassy.
The only thing missing here is a Christmas tree.
It was pretty close to a quarter of a mile of tunnel, wasn't it?
Really?
I think so.
Yeah. We kept thinking it was enough and realized it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, Toby was never satisfied with enough.
Well, but he would always go in and argue for more money if we needed it.
Yeah.
Which was always.
Yeah. Because the original budget it just didn't work.
The Austin film community at that time was loaded with a great many talented people, but it was not generally the place where productions that originated out of Los Angeles and New York did their crewing. So Toby did something that was pretty unique, which was that he came into town and he got virtually all of his keys and really crewed the entire film in Austin, with the exception of a couple of departments, the special effects and special effects makeup people that there weren't any to speak of in Austin, but everybody else on the crew was from Austin, and it was the first time, even though there was a great film community here and it was pretty deep, most of those people had been making their livings on independent films, commercials, and documentaries. So this was the first, Hollywood level budget, major budget film that had come to town, and that was crewed almost probably 90% with people from the Austin film community.
There had been other big films, feature films that come in through the time, and when they pick up people that were here.
Keys.
No, well, there would be. I mean, I think Cary did a couple of things prior to that.
I had done Red-Headed Stranger before this. That was the only feature I'd ever done. But to go along with what Richard's saying, you know, the one thing I've always loved about Austin is it's such a creative place. I guess just because of the university and that sort of thing, but there have been so many creative people here, and I think this film's a reflection of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think we sort of called on not just the film community, but also on other sources. University drama department helped out in providing some equipment and gear that we didn't actually own for doing stuff.
In the art community too.
In the art community, yeah.
And the whole tagline of Austin being weird, you could say there's some great talent in that weirdness, and we called on that numerous times as well. You know, finding certain people for certain things or trying to solve solutions. It's something that's one of the very special things about Austin. That's when us old timers start lamenting the changes. While the changes have to happen, those are the things that you worry about being lost, or at least buried pretty badly.
Oh, they say keep Austin weird is the motto, but you think there's weirdness in Chainsaw 2, do you?
I think we all stayed here and did this because we loved what we were doing. It was an opportunity to do it at the levels that we wanted to do it, even if it was a horror film. And we were working with a really, a fairly well-known director, successful director, and a really well-known writer. So it was a great combination that I think we all knew that it was going to be a good time and a productive time no matter what.
And I've never been so tired in my life when I finished this movie. I slept for a week.
Here's all your bone furniture.
That was really interesting, especially working with Mike or Daniel Miller and those artists, because they just were so creative in what they did.
Yeah, and another amazing.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I remember only mice we could find were white, and so we had to paint them.
That's right. Terry had a job of spray painting the mice.
Uh-huh.
then he took the job as the mice wrangler.
And we had people scouring the ranches for all these bones, and I went in one day and there's a load of sort of green bones that had come in, and the smell was pretty bad, but everybody else was like, I don't notice anything.
Yeah.
If you work with it for a while, you don't notice it.
Yeah.
Oh, it reeked. I remember that. I remember
with the lights on.
And we smelled every day.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a hell of a shot.
That's a pretty neat shot.
That's a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Crane.
Yep. Yeah, remember we got the tulip crane up there and risked our lives.
Oh. Yeah, because this was that center platform that had been support for the presses.
Yeah.
I still have that chair, the grandpa's chair.
You do?
Yeah, I use it as my reading chair.
You're balling up his shit. Grandpa's strict liquid diet keeps him as fresh as a rose.
Remember those contacts that they put in his eyes?
Oh, yeah.
And it just was so painful to him. I mean, it just...
Who played Grandpa?
Ken Everett.
Oh, that's right.
He had, they were looking for somebody who was thin, who had some acting ability, and who also could sit still for the makeup. And Ken had worked with me at Zach Scott as a carpenter, and I knew that he had spent 2 tours of duty in Vietnam as a tunnel rat, and he had trained himself to sit for hours and hours without moving.
Oh my goodness.
And so I suggested him as Grandpa, and Tom Savini fell in love with the guy.
What a great story.
Because he could sit there for hours and hours and hours and not twitch.
Well, to get the makeup put on. Yeah, man. Amazing.
You know, with this old press room and the Matterhorn locations, they kind of gave you the creeps when you walked into places before we did anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I felt strange vibes from both those places.
It's good to start off with creepy locations when you're making a movie. You want to creep people out.
You have to do every damn thing around here. You just. Bubba, she's ready. Bring her on down. Bring her on.
You know, I get, excuse me, I get emails from people wanting to know if I have any props and that sort of thing from it. And to me, it's pretty amazing that it still has this life after this long, and that we're still talking about it. But I do think it's sort of a monument to the synergy of filmmaking that Laura was talking about. At that time, everyone just, nowadays it's so rigid with everything, and you stay in your traditional roles, but then everyone just threw in there together to make this movie, and it was an amazing experience.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Well, I, as I mentioned before, I have the chair. It's Grandpa's chair in the dining room scene, and I also have some other stuff. I made a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 jacket that we thought maybe people would want to buy. Nobody wanted to buy it, so I had the only one. And there's a guy who keeps emailing me, and he wants to buy everything that I have from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And lately he's been sending me emails that say, just name your price.
Go for it.
And I'm thinking like, well, I'm going to stick around for another year or so.
Well, you have a Chainsaw Massacre jacket.
Well, I have the crew jacket.
The crew jacket, yeah. Or maybe
I have a crew jacket, yeah.
Well, I guess that.
But they only gave it to department heads. I don't have a crew jacket.
Oh, well, you can wear mine, dear.
That's all right.
See,
I don't need to wear it.
if I had been art director instead of prop master, I never would have gotten that jacket.
And I think if you look at it from the perspective of filmmakers, looking at it in terms of camera and the set design and the cutting of it, I think it's, and even if you don't particularly know the details of what the production costs were, even at $5 million, $5 or $6 million, I think it's pretty impressive and a little inventive with some of the solutions that we had to come up with production-wise on all those different departments. And I think that's something to be really proud of. You know, I think it's a good thing. I'm real glad to see it after these many years. I think part of the reason we perhaps don't remember I'm sure we were out at the premiere, and it must have been in Los Angeles, but I really don't remember. I think Toby or someone else might have a better memory of that. But I think the reason is because after that film was done, I mean, we just immediately all went back to our work. You know, that we had a production company that was still going strong and trying to sort of limped along during the making of the film. There were other people who kind of kept it going, and we had to jump right back into business, and life just kind of kept rolling along.
Well, there was also a lot of controversy when the film was released. It wasn't rated. The MPAA refused to issue it a rating, and so that, I think, required a little bit of creative marketing on the part of Canon to turn that lack of rating into a marketing advantage. But I think they managed to do it. From what I recall, it was the second highest grossing film that Canon released that year, second only to The Train. So from a commercial standpoint, it was reasonably successful. But Yeah, like Laura said, we jumped immediately back into the soup right after we finished.
Waiting for the harvest and the time of reaping, we shall come rejoicing, bringing in the seed. Boys, boys, boys.
What the hell's going on here? That the American way of entering a man's home singing like that? Oh, I get it. The old pressure game, huh?
Boys, you never should have been doing this.
Who sent you? Those sissies over at Delmar Catering?
Sissies over at Delmar Catering.
Some of that stuff stayed.
Is that a big catering firm in LA?
I have no idea.
I think it might be. Or at least maybe back then.
Real cash money. Just you and me, huh? I don't care who sent you.
I'm the Lord of the Harvest.
Who's that? Some new health food bunch?
My memory of Dennis is that he was very controlled, because I think this was the first film he did after a kind of a rough patch personally in his life, and my impression of him, and I honestly didn't spend very much time socializing with him, but my impression of him was that he was very controlled and very professional, and even though he may have believed that the film was beneath his talents based on the totality of his career, you didn't ever see any of that in his performance. He was really committed to the character and committed to the role, and he was just doing what a pro does. He did his best, and answered the bell.
Well, he was also asked to do a lot of rather silly stuff. I mean, the sword fight, the wearing those bandoleros, the holsters for the. I mean, he was working with a lot of gear, and I remember getting that stuff on him, and he was just so patient, and immediately. Some actors would just say, "Well, I'm not going to wear this. I'm just going to throw this prop away. I won't wear those. That's just stupid." He never, not a word.
No.
He put it on. Terry and Anita and I worked with him so it could be as comfortable as possible, and that kind of acceptance, was a big part of what I think Dennis is like was like as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Very professional.
Small businessman. Always gets it in the ass.
Is this a black comedy or what?
There's more funny stuff in this than I thought there was.
I can see why this movie is a big fan favorite. It's just got a little bit of everything.
It's that suspension bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hyperextended my knee coming down from that.
I didn't see the scene where they were shooting those sparks. The effects guys were blowing those little sparks that set the whole place on fire. But that was that was pretty amazing. I remember the guy that was doing the sketch artist. He waited until Toby said cut before he said fire, and then the whole place filled with smoke.
Yep.
The Austin Fire Department came, and the fire had burned itself out with that by then, but
they were going to close us down anyway.
As they walked around, there were all these charred bodies, and we were all like, no, those are props. Don't worry about it.
What's all this meat hanging up there?
But remember, too, when the fire came, that's when everybody ran out for fire extinguishers, because there were working fire extinguishers, but those guys had never kept them separated. So they kept grabbing fake ones. Nobody could get them to work.
Yeah, but you couldn't reach the fire anyway because the fire was up on the ceiling.
30 feet
Right,
up.
yeah.
Right.
I remember going over to Capitol Saddlery and asking them to make the holsters.
For the chainsaws?
Yeah, and Buck thought I was kidding.
Buck Steiner?
Yeah.
Floyd! The guy's just kicking right in the balls. Not this time.
I'm just amazed watching it now that we had so little money to work with. I mean, everybody had so little money.
Right.
Well, the production value.
Amazing.
The production value is just incredible for what we know the budget was and the circumstances were.
And the times. I mean, the equipment was. I mean, there was some limitation even on equipment to do some of the things that you guys did. That was done with the sets, and what was done for effects, and what was done for shooting.
I remember
neat.
showing up one day down at the Statesman, and there were tables all around the building, and there were all of these people who had been hired to do electrical, and they were attaching bulbs to wire.
Right.
And there must have been about 50 or 60 of them doing this.
Well, like we said, a quarter of a mile of that tunnel.
Yeah.
The amount of electrical work that was necessary to do that was just staggering.
Were we lucky to actually find this place like that? Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And even the room upstairs.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was just, I mean, all these locations, the tunnels down below and this, and the Statesman printing plant.
Well, the thing that's pretty amazing about it is that I think Kit and Toby, then there was a collaboration going on where they basically were taking those things and, they were just creating some of this stuff.
Right, as we were finding it.
Right.
That's why we had so many rewritten pages and scenes, probably contributed to that. But it is. I mean, it was amazing. When you think about it, it was amazing spontaneity and creative boil going on for all of us. Yeah, really amazing.
Yeah, no, they have to plan that. That doesn't just happen like that,
Not the easiest place to shoot either.
Really. And here's Daniel Miller's masterpiece, Grandma.
Yeah. He just enjoyed the heck out of making this. This was the Arts Warehouse, which had been the storage room for the Austin American Statesman, and it had been, half of it had become the Arts Warehouse, which was a lot of artists in different spaces, and Daniel was one of them. And also there was a guy, Neil Coleman, who had projects, and he kind of got all the people in the building up for helping us out. So that was a wonderful space to be able to build stuff in. Yeah, there was a lot of strange stuff going on in that bone room.
It's like dead
ass eating a cracker. Huh? Huh?
You know, the one thing we haven't talked about is Dr. Pepper and Cuban cigars. Toby lived on Dr. Pepper and Cuban cigars. I don't think anyone saw him eat on the movie. He always had a chilled can of Dr. Pepper.
At a precise temperature.
Yeah. Next on his director's chair, and he always had a lit or unlit Cuban cigar in his mouth through the entire film.
Yep, that's right.
I think actually Terry Evans built him a special little cup holder.
Yep, he did.
In his director's chair so that he could, you know, and Terry was in charge of the Dr. Pepper coming off the prop top.
And a litany of
Goddamn Caroline.
You know.
Poor Caroline. Yep.
I actually felt I was happy for her when she got hit in the head and didn't have to scream.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
But
she looks great.
She does look great.
It holds up very well in the film, what she did.
Yeah, she's a beautiful, beautiful lady.
Where were you?
Joe Self, I said, wouldn't it be great to have a Texas flag on top of that thing? A few minutes later, I look up there, and there's Joe planting that flag up there.
Yeah. Well, and Joe would be the person to do it, wouldn't
he? Everybody pitched in.
Yeah. Well, that was it. I mean, you couldn't do a film like this with the crew that we had now.
No.
Because nobody would cross lines. If you had a union crew, this was...
No, it would never work now. The labor laws wouldn't let you do it now either. We were working 90-hour weeks for 9.5 weeks.
And driving 49 miles up the location.
Yeah. Some of that one location, anyway.
And that night you were talking about when the thunderstorms and the lightning and the tornado hit, and we had a Musco light 100 feet in the air, and Hank wanted us to keep shooting because we were behind schedule. And there was lightning striking all over the place, and there was a tornado warning.
Well, the police, the DPS had come and told us, because they knew we were shooting there.
Right.
They came and told Hank that we had to quit. And I was out there at Kraft with Cindy. And we said, we'll go back in and tell him now, and that's when he forbid it. And Cindy and I looked at each other and said, I don't think so. And that's when we went back in and told you and Toby and Bill.
Right.
Not Bill, it was Bob, wasn't it? It was Bob that was AD.
Bob Elkins.
Yeah. Told them that what the police had said, and Toby shut it down. We all went home. But we didn't get hit by the tornado there.
John Moyo, he was the stunt coordinator.
Yeah, right. He's a character. Vince Baldino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it was great to see it again. Don't
It
you
was.
think?
Yeah, I can understand why it's sort of, they're still talking about it. We're still looking at it, you know? It's amazing.
It'll be around for a long time.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you know, it's nice to have every once in a while when you're telling people what did you work on, and you can actually bring up stuff that they know.
Right.
Yep.